Hello and thanks for joining me, astrologer Patrick Arundell. If you're new to my channel, I'd be honoured if you would subscribe. I'd like to tell you about something today that's really gripping. It's about the journey of Mars. Now, Mars is very much to do with our drive and to do with our instant need and gratification. So its movement over the next 6 weeks is going to go through two zodiac signs, the sign of Capricorn, and also it terminates on the 30th of March in the sign of Aquarius. So please do stay with me to the end of this, because I'm going to be giving the key dates of when Mars makes angles to other planets, and there's going to be some crucially important stuff coming up later in this video. But let's first of all think about what Mars is about. Yes, it is about passion. It is about instant gratification. It's about the more masculine energy in a more intimate way in terms of sex. It's also about action. It's also about industry. It's also about bravery. It can be about aggression. But also it can be about getting things done, achieving things, and powering through when there are obstacles. So Mars can be very much a good thing. And in the sign of Capricorn, which it moved to on the 16th of February at 11:33 a.m., it actually moves into a part of its journey where it can really flourish. This is known as an exaltation. The ironic thing is, the ruler of Capricorn, which is Saturn, which of course is known about for structure, but also for limitation. Well, Mars and Saturn are almost like enemies because they represent very different energies. Mars is about getting things done, and Saturn's about resistance. But Mars actually can do really well in the sign of Capricorn. Capricorn is about the things that are well established, the structures, whether it's the management of our lives or it's the governance of our existences. Mars is very much about these. And in Capricorn, it's pushing us to really get our act together, to really firm up our boundaries, be clear on what we will and won't accept. But also, it is about making progress in the more material plane. So even if we're somebody who's quite philosophical about life and like to live our lives in quite a spiritual way, there are still certain practical needs that we still have to meet and fulfill for our lives to work properly and to remain in balance. So this would be a great time to show some initiative, which Mars can give us, to get going on things, to get stuck in, to be much more on the front foot. And in the sign of Capricorn, that can be about our work situation, it can be about our goals and ambitions, it can be about our relationship with older members of the family, particularly the father, or it could be that if we're in the role of the father, we're going to be more proactive in terms of interacting with our children. But Mars also moving into the sign of Capricorn is going to bring a sense of zest and vibrancy, because with Saturn being in this area for just over 2 years since it moved on the 20th of December 2017 into the sign of Capricorn, and also joining up with Pluto, which has been in the sign of Capricorn too, and of course Saturn and Pluto came together in that absolute way on the 12th of January this year, but had been creeping closer together for nearly a year within a 3-degree gap, which is very close. So their influence was quite profound. And Pluto is about what is hidden, the dark side, the underworld, about power in its very elemental sense. And Saturn is about that resistance, but it's also about order, law and order. So we have had some chaffing between the things that need to change and evolve and the things that we need to preserve. And it has created tensions, and some parts of society and life have really bended under the pressure of Saturn and Pluto in quite a powerful way. But the part of this story that's interesting is from about now, the 18th of February, Saturn starts to inch forwards away from its relationship with Pluto. So Mars moving into Capricorn is going to be like a gust of fresh air, a gust of initiative, a gust of momentum and traction, which can be very, very useful to us. Now, what adds to the fascination about this instant change is that from February the 16th through to the 25th, Mars is actually going to be forging within 3 degrees an angle to Uranus. Now, Uranus is very much about being the free spirit. It's about rebelliousness, it's about space, it's about being very authentic. But in the sign of Taurus, it can be very much to do with resources and our values, and it's very much linked. I think the whole debate about the universe and the environmental debate is very much to do with Uranus moving into Taurus to begin with for the first time in 2018 for 5 or so months. So Mars forging this angle to the planet of innovation, which is asking us to think about our everyday resources, and Mars is right at the top in the 10th house, the 10th zodiac sign of Capricorn, which is about success, the public, and it's about profile, suggests that there could be some news emerging between now and the 25th of this month, where innovations are going to come in that can be very positive indeed. So obviously there are some things that we need some help with, but also we can think about how we can apply these changes and this fresh approach to our own lives. So for example, if we've got something that's a bit stuck, if we revisit it with energy and determination, Mars against Uranus, we try a different approach. We take a more original or novel approach, then that can provide a breakthrough and a solution. Now on the 19th of February, the Sun returns to the sign of Pisces for the first time in 11 months. And of course we have Mercury rotating backwards in this area, which can cause the potential for crosswires, glitches, misunderstandings right across the piece, but particularly around administration, technical devices, modes of transport, our communication, mixed messages, misunderstandings, and so on. But through to the 29th, we have a 10-day period where the Sun is also forging a very, very positive angle to Mars. Now, when these two get together, the Sun in its more instinctive, intuitive sign of Pisces, which is watery and to do with listening to the less maybe tangible parts of our instincts, taken together with Mars in this very practical area where it really shines in the sign of Capricorn through instinct, along with that determination, and also being very open-minded coming through the prism of Uranus, then we've got a great opportunity together with that new moon, which is going to be occurring on the 23rd, embracing the energy of Uranus and Mars to be much more proactive. So if we're finding any part of our situation rather challenging and not quite working as we want, this is a time to really get stuck in, because Mars in Capricorn will see us work very hard. It will bring an extra level of industry to our activities. But also, if we are wanting to make our way up the ladder of success, this can be a great time to up our vibration, to up our intent in terms of making progress forward. Now on the 29th, because of course we have a leap year this year, there is an opposition between Mars and the North Node. Now this will take a little bit of care, because obviously Mars is right beside the South Node, which is to do with past karma, instinct, against the North Node in Cancer, which is very much to do with nurturing in Cancer, and Mars is about action, getting things done in a very practical, straightforward way. So there could be some kind of nip point across that day or two when we could feel a bit of tension around the more tender part of our existence. But then in the first 2 weeks of March, we have quite an ironic development, because Mars is actually forging a sextile to Neptune, which is also in the sign of Pisces. But Pisces energy, especially through the prism of Neptune, is very shimmering, it's very ethereal, it's gassy, it's more to do with our dreams rather than what's hard and fast. And any Mars-Neptune influence, even the positive ones, do create the potential for us to invest energy in something that doesn't come to anything because there isn't the critical planning to support whatever we're trying to achieve. But this is where Saturn is going to be so useful to this period of time, because Saturn can still reinforce the way we go about things, to be very thorough, to research things very, very carefully and be diligent, make sure we go through all the processes. And of course, with Mercury retrograde still, even though by the 4th of March it has rotated back into the sign of Aquarius, it is still important at this stage that any ideas that we get which balance the ego of Mars in Capricorn with the compassion of Neptune in Pisces is well balanced, it's well thought through. But it can take the edge off Mars in terms of it being about us ourselves, in terms of individual achievement, and just make us a bit more conscious of what we can do for others. So we could work hard on behalf of some kind of good cause. So if you're doing anything of a charitable nature, this would be a fine time to do it in the first 2 weeks of March. But then from the 14th to the 26th, and this is what I wanted for you to stay on for this video, so important. Then Mars is going to be going alongside Jupiter and also Pluto. And this is going to go on right through till the 27th of March. And what we're going to have is that when Mars and Pluto get together, you can often have something happen that's quite combustible. People who have a life that is a little bit on the dark side, particularly to do with crime, Mars instant gratification, Pluto power, often have Mars and Pluto influences. So it's possible that this particular conjunction between Mars and Pluto could trigger some kind of trigger point in the wider world, because these planetary influences don't just play out within us, they do happen on a wider basis. And in this type of situation, I think because Jupiter, which is wedged between the two, is very much about international affairs. And ironically, whereas Mars is exalted in Capricorn, Jupiter is actually in its fall, so it's not its best transit. There could be something that's going to happen between the 14th and the 26th, which is quite tumultuous for the world at large. Now, it could be to do with the money systems. It may be to do with some kind of global power interacting with some kind of regional power in terms of a dispute, which could become much more aggressive. So there can be heightened tensions, I think, around international affairs across those days. But also it's going to be important within ourselves that we channel any frustration that we might be feeling, so that we don't reach that kind of explosion point, which can happen to all of us when we're very, very frustrated and we feel overwhelmed. Now, Jupiter, in that sense, can be a good thing, that it is a wedge between Mars and Pluto, because Jupiter is kind of saying, look, take a more philosophical view of things. But Mars is about reaction. It's about making things happen, but it's also less to do with emotional control in a way. And Pluto can stir up deep powers which we may want to resist. So, for example, a boss may be very unfair to us at this time, or we may have a view of our government wherever we live that we feel is a bit dark, that they're trying to force something onto us which isn't very fair. And Jupiter will be in the middle trying to keep the status quo. So this is a really critical time for world security in all sorts of different ways. But in our own situation, if the conjunction between Saturn and Pluto that we've all been going through over the last year has seen quite a lot of energy stirred up and not necessarily expelled in an external way, it's all been going on much more internally. If there is a trigger point, if someone pushes their weight around, is very demanded of what they want without being mindful of our own rights in a situation, then we could push back. But it's also very, very important to be aware of how we use our tactics. But of course, countries, the New World countries, such as Australia, New Zealand and America, never developed by anyone being mild and meek. So Mars can be a very achieving energy, especially with Pluto, as long as we can channel that furnace of energy in a positive way. So this is a great opportunity for us. But of course, the Sun moves. We have the vernal equinox. The zodiac goes back to the first point of Aries on the 20th of March, and then on the 22nd, Saturn moves out of Capricorn into the sign of Aquarius, and it's joined on the 30th by Mars, which moves into the sign of Aquarius too, and by the 31st day of March they come together in a conjunction. Now that in itself can have some complications, because if you think about it, Saturn's about the brake and Mars is about the engine, so it can be like trying to drive a car with the handbrake on, but equally it can make us really focus on what's really important. And I think the bigger picture that's developing over the next 2 or 3 years is personkind. It is how we're going to deal with all these challenges of balancing materialism and consumerism with environmental consciousness. And I think that debate is going to become much more to the fore as March comes to a close. So you can see Mars can be hugely beneficial in February. It's asking us to be very open-minded, very innovative in our approach, to go with the flow. It embraces the new moon beautifully, which gives us, from the 23rd, a month's backdrop of an ability to be action orientated but sensitive at the same time. And then this energy that comes in from Neptune asks us to embrace that compassion even more. And then from the middle of the month pretty well to its end, we do have that incredibly important conjunction between Mars, Jupiter and Pluto. So in our own lives, something that has been stuck can finally change, and it could be like the floodgates finally bending and being breached as the water cascades through. But it could be in a positive way, because very often with Pluto, even if painful stuff happens, there's often some kind of improvement that comes from the understanding or the knowledge of that experience, that life experience. So as we come to the end of this month, and the Sun is then forging a brilliant angle to both Saturn and also to Mars, the Sun in Aries, I think we're going to come to the end of March really with a sense of new beginnings, new energy, new hope, new desire of how things can pan out for us. And this very, very big energy, which has been building up since Pluto entered Capricorn in 2008, has been augmented by Saturn in the sign of Capricorn for the last 2.25 years. It is going to be coming back from the 1st of July back into Capricorn, and then of course Saturn moves into Aquarius on the 14th of December for the next 2.25 years. But we are inching towards moving away from the top-down model, which is Capricorn, which is about traditional power. It's about people getting their way because they always have. It's going to be challenged much more by us all coming together collectively to try to find a better way to coexist, to prosper, to enjoy the good things in life, but just be a bit more conscious about the impact that our behaviour and our desires has on our overall existence and the people we're living with. Now, if you'd like to have a one-to-one personal consultation with me, I'd be absolutely thrilled. Please see the link beneath this video, or you can order a written report, which is really high quality, for a 12-month transit ahead, and also a character analysis, which really helps you to understand in detail all that your personal journey is about. And please see the link beneath this video for that too. But for now, good luck and goodbye.